The woman who is likely to oversee the Biden administration's resource extraction policy is New Mexico's Congresswoman Deb Haaland. She'll have her first committee hearing next week as she works towards Senate confirmation. As an environmentalist and the first Native woman appointed to head a federal lands agency, Ms. Haaland's nomination was cheered by progressives and others in the Democratic Party. But her opposition to fracking has conservative Western senators from Montana to Wyoming vowing to oppose or even attempt to block her nomination. And Daniel, do you see any chance of that? Are the senators, can they do that? Or B, the pressure will get too great and President Biden will have to back off the nomination? There's a lot of concern here.
Yeah, I think there's some real issues with her, just kind of sliding it through the nomination process. I think it's great to have a New Mexican. I think I think this is a problem. You're seeing a problem rising when you're seeing this problem exacerbated, which I think we become more and more in tune with now in this culture of identity politics, right? The problem being, hey, I'm going to nominate someone because they fit in this box, but I'm not sure whether they can actually do the job, handle the questioning, be the individual that does that, realizing they do a bunch more stuff. I'm not sure how someone who's, the DOI does a lot more than just works with Native Americans. It's a big part, the tribal portion, but you're talking about federal land, you're talking about drilling, you're talking about mineral rights. And so now, you've got the president who's nominated someone who clearly is going to be okay on Native American issues, but is openly and antagonist to the other people that have to work and another big portion of what it is they do. And I think not only are you going to see opposition, I think you're going to see bipartisan opposition from Democrats and Republicans both saying, wait a minute, we're not sure this is the right person because of the amount of money that, this is huge.
Let me ask Senator Feldman to jump in here too on this as well. Is her nomination in danger here in your view?
No, I don't think I think there'll be a lot of talk about it, but I don't think her nomination is in danger. Joe Manchin, who is the most likely Democratic opponent, has said he's deferring to the new president for his nominees. So I don't think there's real trouble. And I really kind of resent the fact that people are questioning her because she is a Native American. That seems to be the objection that Dan just raised, that she's only good in that one area and is unprofessional in the other areas. She's a lawyer. She has been on the relevant committees here for 4 years. She is experienced, and her positions are well known, but her competence is also well known. And I think it speaks well of New Mexico. She's not just a Native American candidate. She is a woman. She is a New Mexican, a Democrat, and somebody who has strong environmental beliefs about climate change, about oil and gas. And yes, these are things that need to be considered. They haven't been considered in the past.
That's a good point. That they really haven't, have they, with any nominee for this position? That's a very interesting point there. Senator Snyder, there's no perfect candidate for any cabinet position. Everyone's got a little something there. Is it automatically an out for you that Ms. Haaland has been opposed to fracking? That's one part of energy policy. There's a whole lot of other things that she has not spoken up about that she opposes. Is this one thing enough for you to have question?
Yes, but I just want to address what Senator Feldman said. I've not heard a single person say that issue or voice any concerns about the fact that she's a Native American. Is in fact, I've heard that being said as a great plus for her going into this Department of the Interior job. I have the same problem with her as Secretary of Interior that I have with her as representing the congressional district that I live in, and that is being anti-fracking. And it's in many states, that's nothing. It means nothing. In our state, it means everything. I was just reading a few days ago that we're up to 40% of our budget coming from oil and gas revenues, and not counting any of the extractive mining or any of those. So it concerns me in the same way that I worry about it as her vote as my congresswoman. I would worry about her dealing with those issues as the Secretary of the Interior. I think also the thing that enhances that concern for me is the fact that as the secretary, with the president behind her, will have more influence than as being a single congressional representative. So yes, I have very great concerns. I suspect, like Senator Feldman said, that there will be a lot of talk. I'm not sure that we're still in the honeymoon period for Mr. Biden. So I'm not sure that it will do her in. But I think there has to be, and this is terrible to say, but I think there has to be one cabinet secretary that the opposing party, and it happens on both sides, has to take a stand against. And I'm very afraid that it may be Ms. Holland.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to be a very interesting hearing, and I look forward to hearing some of it.
Yeah.
But as a
Same.
Mexican and as a woman, I'm very proud of her.
Mm-hmm.
She's a Native American. She represents our state, but some of her positions are of great concern to me
So, Gene,
and many of the people I know.
Gene, I think a couple things. One of them is, and I love Dee Dee. She's one of my closest friends. I don't have any opposition, and to say that I have opposition because she's a Native American woman is not fair. I didn't say that. I said that I think the reason she's elevated to this position is because they're checking a box for Native American woman. I think it's going to be interesting.
Isn't that the same thing?
What's that?
Isn't that the same thing? Kind of sideways, no?
What saying that they're giving her the job is
Yeah.
saying I'm opposed to her getting the job?
Yeah.
So no, see, Gene, you and I disagree. I don't believe in identity politics. I don't believe in saying that, well, I'm going to give this person a job because they fit into a box.
But that's not our system. We have a nomination process. No one's being given
100%.
anything. So
There's 100%. Department of Interior. I mean, he's now nominated a lady from New Mexico, a congresswoman from New Mexico, who, even when my good friend Dee Dee was talking about her, all Dee Dee said was she's a Democrat, she's Native American, she's not even a member of the New Mexico bar. She hasn't passed the bar in New Mexico.
Senator Feldman, let me ask you this. Clouding over all of this is we're right in the middle of, by any standard, a change or slow change possibly for some from fossil fuels into non-renewable renewables. And in the middle of all this, to have a Secretary of the Interior during this time of massive change where you've got the oil and gas industry really kind of panicked right now about the future. You've got General Motors announcing they're going to be, going all electric in 2035 for all their vehicles. All that has to sort of figure into this discussion, I'm imagining, unless I'm missing something here. What's your sense of that?
Well, I think it's to be expected.
Okay.
I think it's to be expected in the same way as environmental opposition surfaced when our previous interior secretaries, and remember, several of them were removed for corruption because of their connections to the oil and gas industry and their close advocacy for that industry. The environmentalists objected, but those Republican interior nominees were confirmed by a Republican Senate. So I think this is a similar situation.
Thank you
And
for
Gene,
that. No, hold on, Dan. Got to run, my friend. I'm sorry about that. We got short on time.